Hey guys, my name is Kim and this is Expedition 3 Pages, and this is the very first HRCYED check-in and I'm very excited. Okay, so we are now 1 week into HRCYED and so that means I should have already read 2 books. And I have! They were both small books, so this momentum may not last. You know, it may not last, but that's fine. So yeah, I just wanted to check in with you now, and I think I'll check in with you next week as well and then post the video, so it's like a 2-week check-in every time. But yeah, the first book that I completed for HRCYED was Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. So this is a very, very short novella by Frederick Backman, and it's really sad. I knew it would be sad going in, and it is all about the exploration of a grandfather who has like Alzheimer's or dementia, something like that, where he is losing his memories. And so you are kind of in his head for some of it, and he's kind of talking to his grandson about how it feels to have this disease and to have your memories going. And then there are also parts of the book where he's speaking to his wife who has passed away, and also a little bit with his son. So it's very like intergenerational. And although it's really, really short, I feel like the characters are real characters. Like, you know, you don't know huge amounts about them, you can't, because it's 90 odd something pages or something, but I still feel like you know the characters. Like, you know just by like a small sentence maybe what the father and son's relationship is like, and the kind of relationship between the grandson and the grandfather as well was just so nice. And that was the part of the story that I found most emotional, was their relationship and the way his grandson was kind of handling the situation. I don't really want to talk too much about it because it is only short. But yeah, if it's something that you think that you could listen to, I do think it's worth a listen. Sorry, I listened to it, that's why I'm saying listen to. But if it's something you think you could read about or listen to, then I do think it's definitely worth it, because it's small, but it's very thoughtful and very interesting kind of way to think about what happens when you get older and you lose memories and you can't piece things together anymore. I gave this one 4.5 stars, and like I say, I would highly recommend this one if this is a subject matter that you're interested in. It's short, but you know, you get a lot out of it, I think. The author of this book is Swedish, so it was written in Swedish originally, and the translator for this is Alice Menzies, and the narrator that I listened to is David Morse, and I think David Morse did a really good job of narrating this book. What I found really interesting was that there was a little intro at the beginning where Backman was saying that he wrote it for himself to try and get his mind around the concept of getting older and losing your memories and not being able to form ideas anymore yourself. And he basically said that he wrote it not really intending for anybody else to read it, he just wrote it for himself. So it was interesting listening to the book after knowing that, because I feel like any critiques of it you had kind of fell by the wayside a little bit because it was such a personal thing that he wrote. So you didn't want to be so much of a critic about it, if you know what I mean. Not that there was much to critique negatively, but it was just an interesting fact to know about going into it, was that he didn't intend anyone to read it when he wrote it. It was just for him. So I, of course, will be using that for the 10-word title, for the titular counting prompt, and I've decided to only use it for that, unless things get desperate at the end and I need it, because it was only short, so I feel like I should only use it for 1 prompt. And also the other prompts it could count for were a little bit more generic, so I'll just wait, and if I need to use it at the end, then I will. Okay, then the next book that I finished was Love by Toni Morrison, and this, I don't even know how to talk about this book really, because this book is not really something that I've ever read before in both story and also in style of writing, and that kind of led me to being really confused for the first part of this book, and really confused about who the characters are, because the way Toni Morrison has written this is it jumps back and forward in perspective and in timeline, and it can be a little bit confusing at times. Well, quite a lot confusing at times, especially because of the relationships between people, but you don't really find out who everyone is straight away. It's kind of dripped in as you go along the story, and so when you reach a character again, you're having to be like, wait, who are they? Is that this person's mum, or are they their sister? Or they... And I think it's intentional. Like, I think that Toni Morrison wants that to happen, because there is a lot to this story that has much bigger impact if you don't realize it early on. But what I mean by that is, like, obviously I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but there are parts of the story that really are impacted with who these people are and what kind of time you're in and things like that. So I think being confused is kind of part of the experience in a way, and leads you to being like very much more impacted later on. But what I can tell you is in this book you're following the perspectives of kind of 6 different women-ish and a couple of guys as well, and their relationships with this very larger than life prominent character in the town that they live in. When he was in his heyday, he owned this big hotel that was really, really popular and was kind of the life of the party, and it's about the women in his life and their relationships to him, and also about how he was as a person and how he is kind of perceived by everybody in the town and by family members and by other people and things like that. And it's really difficult at times. There's some shocking scenes in here and shocking subject matter, and definitely if you have trigger warnings that you like to avoid, I would look up the trigger warnings for this just before going into it, just to see if you want to read it or not. But I really liked it, and I think the more that I sit with it, the more I like it. The more kind of impressed I am with the storytelling, even though there were aspects of it that I didn't like reading about and, you know, was quite confronting in the realities of what was going on in the town and things like that. But even though I got to the end, or especially when I got halfway through and I had to start asking the internet about what's going on, what's happening. I asked ChatGPT, am I an idiot for not understanding this book? And it was like, no, you're not an idiot. It says, no, you're not an idiot if you ask it for anything. The good thing about ChatGPT is you can ask it for no spoilers. So when you want to know something about a book, you say, don't spoil me, tell me about this one aspect of the book. And so because of what I was asking about, it was basically said, it told me what I wanted to know. And then it said, I'm not going to tell you why, because that's going to spoil you, basically. So that was really good. I'm not going to lie, that was handy. I feel like there are some good uses for AI, you know, that was handy. But yeah, so halfway through I was Googling like who certain people were, what was going on a little bit. But then by the halfway mark, I was a lot more into it and was reading a lot quicker because I'd got into the style of storytelling a little bit more. I'd learned who the characters were, and I was a little bit more kind of fast paced going through it. And then by the end, there was some confusion, but I did some Googling and had a chat with my book club. And yeah, things have become a lot more clearer than they were in the process of reading it. And so I think because of that, now I kind of want to go back and reread it at some point in the future. However, knowing me, I'll probably go back to it and I would have forgotten everything and I'll be confused all over again. Because that's usually what happens if I reread something. That's what I've learned recently. I never used to reread, and I've reread basically 2 things recently, and I'd forgotten so much stuff. It's like reading a brand new book again. I don't know what happens to my mind, but it's like forgets everything that it's read clearly. So yeah, anyway, I really enjoyed this one and I would recommend it. I think it is worth the read, definitely. Even if you feel confused at times, I think it's worth it in the end. So yeah, really good, and I'm excited to get to more Toni Morrison now as well. So it's really like kind of pumped me up for reading the rest of the books. I am collecting these editions of the books, so I have 4 of them now in this edition, which is great. Of the 4 of them, I've only read 2 of them, so I have got 2 physical books on my TBR to read from Toni Morrison, so I'm excited to get to those hopefully soon, because I did enjoy this one a lot. I do realise that I've gushed about this book. I did end up giving this one a 4-star. So yeah, it wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but I did really enjoy it, and maybe on a reread I would up it to like a 4.5 or a 5, because yeah, I do feel like there's more to be gained from it in the future for sure. Okay, so with regards to HRCYED, I read this one as my very first book in the chain for HRCYED, so I can tick that one off. There's now 4 more in the chain that I need to read. And the next one that I'm reading, I already started today, and it's Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I chose Elantris because love ends in E, and Elantris starts with E, and that's how the HRCYED works for me. So yeah, I'm excited to get started on Elantris. I'm having to reread the start of it because I have read it previously, but I'm gripped straight away this time, which is great. I'm a lot more gripped than I think I have been previously. I feel like in my reading groove at the moment, so I'm quite happy about that. With regards to what else I'm going to fit love for, I haven't decided yet. I don't know. By the end of next week, before I put this video up, I will try and make a decision about it. But yeah, I'm not too sure what I want to use it for at the moment. Maybe like the cover style, but I feel like is cover style just too easy to do with books when you're reading like early on, if you know what I mean. I'll make a decision, I'll let you know. Hey guys, it is now the 20th of July, and that means that we are at the end of week 2 of HRCYED. And have I finished any other books? No, I have not. Oops. I was just editing last week's clips and I saw that I said that I was in my reading groove now and I was really excited and that I was feeling really positive about my reading, and that did carry on for a few more days. And I don't really know what happened, but my mood kind of dipped a little bit, and when I'm in a low mood, I don't read. I find it really difficult to read. So that kind of happened. However, I am in the middle of 3 books for HRCYED. So, you know, progress is being made still. So I don't need to freak out just yet. But before I talk about those, I just wanted to update you guys on what I want to use love for its second prompt. So one of the prompts for HRCYED 3.0 is to do a mashup of HRCYED 1 and HRCYED 2 prompts. And so I was consulting my booklet, my very cool HRCYED booklet that I bought that Q made, and I was consulting these, and I basically decided to go with, from HRCYED 1, read books that spell your full name, and from HRCYED 2, the BIPOC challenge. So I've decided to mash those 2 up. Now, Q did say that you don't have to complete the whole challenge. I think she said that. I hope she said that. Yeah, it says in this book there is a 5 book minimum for this prompt. So you don't have to do everything, you just have to read at least 5 books. And so I have decided that for my full name, because I don't like to give my full name on the internet, I don't know if that is a legitimate fear or not, but I don't like to say my full name. But I do have a really long first name. So my name is Kim, obviously you probably know that, but if you don't, my name is Kim, but my full name is Kimberly. So I'm going to use Kimberly as my full name because it is, and it's 9 letters long. So I'm going to try and do 9 books for this prompt instead of the minimum of 5. And I'm mashing this up with a BIPOC challenge. So the BIPOC challenge is to read books, well, originally it was to read 10 books by authors from different ethnic backgrounds. However, I'm doing 9 because my name is 9 letters long. So I'm not going to do the full 10, but that doesn't really matter because according to the rules, I only have to do 5. So I'm not going to worry about that. I am going to try and do the 9 letters though, because I do feel like it'd be weird if I just spelt some of my name out, like different letters. So I want to try and spell Kimberly in full. So yeah, I can now add the L from love to Kimberly. So that's exciting. So I did make a full bingo board for myself just to tick things off as I go. I did this inspired by Sarah from Freshly Read Books, because she also made her own, or she also makes her own graphics for when she plays HRCYED, and I wanted to do the same. I love making graphics, and so I did the same. They're not as pretty as hers, but I wanted to do mine, which you've seen some of them already. But this is the main bingo board where I'm going to be tracking if I actually get any bingos. So yeah, as you can see, I've added my books in on my bingo board so we can see the progress as I go along. And yeah, no bingos in sight yet. Anyway, that's the progress after 2 weeks. The 3 books I'm reading right now, I'm actually listening to all of them. Technically, I am physically reading. I'm doing this because I've not picked it up in days, but I'm physically reading Gilded. That's on my bedside table. Sometimes when I go to bed, I pick that up. But mainly I'm doing audiobooks at the moment. And so I have started Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Really enjoying that one so far. Although I've kind of stalled on it a little bit. I feel like because it's very heavily political, you have to pay attention to all the different names and stuff like that. And I'm finding sometimes my concentration is drifting off a little bit, or I'm having to rewind to find out what I've missed or if I've misunderstood something. So I have slowed down a little bit on that, but I am 24% of the way through that. So I've made fairly good progress, not really enough, but that's fine. And then I did actually get 2 books out from the library. The first one is The Colour Purple, which is on my TBR. So I did start reading that. I'm not very far into that at all, I think under 10%. I don't really know anything about The Colour Purple, even though it's like super popular. But yeah, I do know that it's going to be a really difficult read because it already is a really difficult read, even though I love the way it's written. I really love the way it's written. And also the audiobook version that I have got out from the library, Alice Walker narrates it herself and she's doing an amazing job. So yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that she's narrating it. So yeah, I've got that one on the go. But because I was in quite a low mood, I also wanted to get a little bit more of a light-hearted one, which when I tell you what I'm reading, you'll be like, what? Is this light-hearted? I don't know. But I decided to pick up Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This is all about a young boy who has a facial difference, and it is about him, at the moment it's about him starting school for the first time. So he's been homeschooled by his mum for most of his life. I think he's like 9 or something, and he's going to school for the first time. So I love it. It's like lighthearted in the fact that it's a middle grade, but then some things have just happened to him at school and it really broke my heart for him. So yeah, not exactly a light read, but I am enjoying that one. And Danielle from Book Clara, she hosted some sprints the other day alongside our friend Leanna. Leanna was also on the sprints with her, which was really fun. And Danielle was saying that she has seen the film Wonder as well. So I do really want to finish this book soon so I can watch the film with my partner. Because I love doing that. I love reading books, and if I really enjoy them, then if they have a film, I make him watch the film. That is one of my hobbies. I'll absolutely love doing it. And more often than not, I rip the film to shreds because it's not as good as the book, but I'm hoping that this one is an exception to that. The last time we did it, it was also an exception to that rule because it was the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, and I absolutely love the book and I love the movie, so who knew that was going to happen? But yeah, really good, those two. Anyway, so I'm 27% of the way through Wonder, so I'm going to carry on listening to it this next week and hopefully get that done soon. Have no idea what I'm going to use it for HRCYED, so I have to really think about that. I did want to say as well, because I did do a little bit of B footage of Cobham. So Spencer and I went on a walk to Box Hill, and after that on our way home we decided to stop off somewhere. So we stopped off in this little village that we didn't know anything about, and it's like high-end rich people live there. Like, we were looking at the estate agents' windows and all of the houses were over 1 mil at least. Some were like 2 mil, and it was ridiculous. It had a Waitrose. If you live in the UK, you know. If you don't, Waitrose is like a really posh supermarket over here that only pops up in the places where people have money, essentially. But it was really cute. They did have a bookshop, and we went in there and I got my sister-in-law for her birthday a little hand-painted bookmark that was really cute because I did want to support them. But yeah, I didn't buy any books, but I did buy the bookmark, so I just wanted to share that with you because it's super cute and I really hope that she likes it. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now, so thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to know how you got on for the first 2 weeks of HRCYED if you're doing it as well. And yeah, what was your favourite read in the last 2 weeks? Even if you're not doing HRCYED, what was your favourite read in the last 2 weeks? I think out of the two, even though I scored it less than Every Morning, The Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, I do think Love was my favourite completed read for the last 2 weeks. Anyway, that's everything for today, so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye!